Makes a huge difference if you'll do me a favor by subscribing and liking the podcast wherever you listen. It goes a long way. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy. One. On this conversation with Lena Sisco, a former Navy intelligence officer and a DOD interrogator who served in the global war on terror, conducting hundreds of interrogations. We talk about how you can control your message through the use of verbal and nonverbal behaviors. You'll always command a conversation with confidence. You can negotiate like a pro, de escalate conflict, and have the most difficult conversations with ease. When you can properly and accurately analyze the verbal and nonverbal behaviors of others, you will know who is lying to you and who is telling you the truth. She's been detecting deception since 2003, and she can teach you how to master this skill. Hear her story, her lessons that you can apply in your life from Lena as we talk about her inspiration to go from the female Indiana Jones in archaeology to the female James Bond. Lena, welcome to the Wisdom of Life.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, my pleasure. I'm curious. I want to go back to like the beginning, not like when you were necessarily a baby.
Okay, that's good.
How you got into your work into interrogation intelligence because you were an anthropology major in
Yeah.
college, is that right? In undergrad?
Yes, I really specialize in the science of art. I was an archaeologist. I worked for a university as well. Stemmed because I loved the Indiana Jones movies and I loved culture and I loved adventure. And all I wanted to do was get out of the small town that I grew up in. That was it. And so I thought, if I become an archaeologist, I can travel the world, I can experience new cultures, I can go see all of these amazing places and dig up these artifacts and, get into the history. And I just loved it. It was cool. It was amazing. I have that scientific mind, but I just felt there's a piece of me, whether it's my personality or, whoever I am, that's not connecting. I'm missing a piece here. I love what I do. I would never do anything other than what I do. And my dad's like, it's time to get a job. So I had a friend and he said, "Hey, I just joined the Navy Reserves and I'm in intelligence. You should join." And I thought, the military? Are you joking? Like, I just graduated Brown University. I'm an academic, right? And he said, "Well, instead of being Indiana Jones, you could be James Bond." I was like, well, archaeology wasn't that adventurous. James Bond is a lot of adventure, action, and excitement. I've always wanted to do that and shoot guns, and why not? And so I joined the military without really thinking about it. It was almost on a dare because my friend was like, "I dare you to join with me." I was like, "Okay, why not?" No plan, no thought, no thinking in the future. I just did it. I came in as a very lowly enlisted person. I was 28 years old at the time. I was an E3. I was also a reservist. I embarked on my Navy career. I signed a contract for 6 years and it was fun. I loved it. And then this thing happened in year number 2 after I had already gone through my reserve training school, learned how to be an intelligence specialist, learned my military bearing. I had a commander come up to me when I was assigned at my first duty station in Newport, Rhode Island at the War College. And he said, "Seaman Cisco, we have an opportunity for you. The Marines are coming to talk today, and they're going to talk about this new program called IPW, Interrogation Prisoners of War. And they want, for the first time ever, they want to be augmented. So they're looking to their sister service, the Navy, and reservists, and they're going to allow females to join. And it's the first time they're going to allow your low rank as an E3." So I was like, "Ooh, first time female, low rank, I can do this." Until I listened to this group of very hardcore Marines, and they talked about what this program was and what you would do as an interrogator, and they scared me. And I went to my commanding officer. I said, "Sir, thank you so much for thinking that I could do this, but I have to give you a hard no. Like, No, there's no way that I would like to go live in a country where bombs are going off around me, talking to prisoners in a tent. Like, that's just not what I signed up for. And so he said, "Are you sure though? Because we just think your personality would be really good for this." Saturday night, I kind of beat myself up because I thought this was a challenge. Why did you say no? What do you fear? You're fearing something that hasn't even happened yet. Like, I was making up stories in my head. And why did I assume I couldn't do it? So I woke up Sunday morning. I went into drill, and the first thing I did was seek him out. And I said, "Sir, sign me up for this program. I don't think I'm going to please you. I think I'm going to fail out. But you know what? If you see something in me, why not? I will give it a try." And a year later, I was graduating in the top of the class.
My goodness. So, first off, with the recruiter, was that like, did you actually know that the recruiters screw people up, or was that like a little test? You were like,
No, it's a thing.
okay.
Because and it's not for every recruiter, but when you're recruiting to fill billets, they call spaces, right? And the recruiters have to meet a quota. And sometimes they will only have billets available in one discipline and not another. So I told him, "I want this discipline only. You're not going to get me to come in and live aboard a ship and do something else. I'm not going to do it." And thankfully, they had billets open in Intel. So it aligned.
And then did that like internal confidence you talked about where you're at first you're like, yeah, I can do it. Did you always have that? Like when you look back at your childhood throughout?
No, not at all. No, no. I think the turning point for me, if you ask anybody that went to high school with me, they are so confused at who I am now.
Yeah.
I was always dubbed as shy, the quiet girl. Nobody would call me that now. I think the turning point for me, because I was in high school, when I went to college, I felt that I had to stand up for myself more and protect myself more. And after a few kind of trial and errors and being treated meanly and unkindly, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. Absolutely. No one will treat me that way again." I just had this air of like, "Don't mess with me. I will hold my ground. I will protect myself. And don't ever think you can get away with anything, lying, manipulate, whatever it was." So that's when I really grew into it. I still to this day don't really know where it came from. It's probably in my DNA and it just didn't surface until then. My dad, I'm very much like my dad in that regard. But that's when I really stepped into having that confidence. But every time I just thought, I can't let this beat me down. I can't let this not allow me to push myself or to grow. At Brown, it was so prestigious. I couldn't believe I was there. And I was giving my first presentation, and I just was a ball of nerves. And I thought, "I'm awful. How cannot believe that I just did this. I looked ridiculous. I sounded ridiculous." And again, I got so mad at myself that I went back and said, "You will never, ever do that again. The next presentation you give is going to be a rock star presentation and you're not going to get nervous." And so it came in this one particular class. I signed up and I said, "I want to go first." And everybody was like, "Wow, that's pretty ballsy because this is a big deal." But I'm like, "No, I got to do this to prove it to myself." And I went first and I knocked it out of the park. I don't want to say beat myself up because I don't do that. I think if people do that, it just buries them more and really takes away that level of confidence and that fight spirit. So for me, it made me want to fight. And in fighting was showing up with confidence and saying, "No, I'm going to kick you know what right now. And I will do X and nobody's going to take me down."
I think that's a good lesson for audience, my audience, because you got angry, but like it was like a good anger. You used that
Yeah,
as a motivating factor, like, no, okay, I'm not I'm not gonna be knocked down and stay down by this. I'm gonna get back up and be better than ever.
absolutely. Yeah, I use it to an advantage. And, I know people who, instead of having it help them to overcome any type of fear and really rise up in their power and their strength, it will actually debilitate them because it kind of morphs into self deprecating thoughts, a lot of thought distortions, which leads to doubt and insecurity. And now they've pulled themselves down into this vortex they can't get out of. And so it can be very dangerous. So you always, I tell people, you have to be your own biggest cheerleader because nobody else will. You have to be that person. And you have to always be kind to yourself. You have to respect yourself. You have to think highly of yourself because if you don't, nobody else will.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, as you're going through this naval intelligence training, right? Was that self-talk you were giving yourself like, "Okay, you can find a way, you can get through, you can do this."
So, in the beginning, when I first started the IPW training, it was a lot of, I'm never going to make this. I will not get through it. The physical requirements were so much harder than the Navy. Because I was in the Navy, but I was being trained as a Marine Corps interrogator. So, technically, I'm a Marine Corps certified interrogator. The athletic and physical ability requirements were way stronger. The interrogation itself was the hardest training I ever went through in my life, to include my martial arts belt degrees. This was a level beyond because it tests your inner strength, your self awareness. That program is designed, and for a reservist, it was over a year. It was designed really to beat you up, tear you down, and then build you back up. Breaking down stage was happening. I thought, here's the deal. If I fail out tomorrow, if I don't make it, I'm okay with myself because I tried it and I did it. If I had said no, walked away, and thought, well, what if I could have done it? Or, what would have happened? That's a fail in my eyes. So I tried it. And if I didn't make it, I was going to be okay with myself. Absolutely okay. Because I had that initial courage to try it. The only person holding us back is ourselves. The same thoughts way back in the day when I entered into this program were just do it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out and you find another path. And if it does, good on you. You just did. Now you have this skill.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just listening earlier today to, Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic, and he was talking about he calls it the resistance from Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield says, like, when you're something challenging, something new, and you don't know if you have what it takes to do it, whether write a book or build a business or whatever it is, like in this case, there's that resistance. And Ryan said, interestingly enough, I never have heard him say this before, even though Ryan's written multiple books and award-winning books, he goes through that same emotional process of like, is this gonna work out? And like, oh my gosh, this is such an overwhelming big task. And what have I signed up for? And he says, Stephen Pressfield says that's the resistance.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I absolutely do. And I would explain or define his resistance as the fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown is the biggest fear that humans can have because it is the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. But then you have to ask yourself, why do I have all this fear about writing a book that I could potentially enjoy that could be a bestseller? Why do I have this fear if I don't know anything yet? But all of our brains are wired to do this. And that worry, that doubt, whatever you want to call it, the fear of the unknown will hold us back. And that creates that resistance. And I sat there on pins and needles. But then I'm like, why? My agent loves me. She's so supportive. And if it's not good, it's not good. Then I'll change it. And I should be thankful for that feedback, right? Instead of fearing it, be thankful for it.
It sounds like you do a great job of doubting the doubts,
Mm, I like that.
like questioning. Lori Gottlieb says we are unreliable narrators of our own
Yes.
lives, and I feel like in already I've noticed like multiple times you've doubted like, okay, well, wait a sec here. I'm only looking at like one side of this coin or one possibility, but what about other possibilities? What if
Hmm.
this turns out well? Like, do you feel like that's just a muscle you've repped like so many times? Do you feel like that's natural, like you've been doing that forever? Or how do you feel about that?
He says,
Yeah.
So fast forward, right? I graduate interrogation school. I love this. This is a skill that involves humans, which I love everything about human connection and human behavior and all of that. But it also tied into my archaeology days because I'm still being an analyst. I still have to tap into that analytical mindset and that ability because I may not be digging in the land and recovering artifacts and trying to piece together a story, but guess what? Now I'm digging in someone's brain and I'm digging in your brain to find out what do you know and how does it fit into the bigger picture. And I get to use my human intelligence skills. So it was just a win-win all the way around. Fits my personality. I love it. So back to that, the very first time after I got deployed and I was in Gitmo, my very first interrogation, guess what showed up at the front door again? That fear. And my first interrogation was terrible, absolutely hideous. So think about that Brown story when I really just fell apart in that presentation. And I went home and I beat myself up to a fault, though, that I said, "You'll never do that again." And it empowered me. After my first interrogation, I did the same thing. I went back to my house and I told myself, I don't deserve to be here. People could potentially die because I was so bad. You better buck up, tighten up, and go back tomorrow and go do what you were trained to do and do it well. So I was like my own coach. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And I showed up the next day. And the funny thing is, I had the same interpreter because we were talking to the same detainee. And the first interrogation lasted maybe 2 hours. He walked all over me. He took control of the conversation. He didn't answer my questions. It was so bad. When I tell you I failed hard. And I went back the second day and I was in there for 8 hours. Amazing rapport, followed up, exploited everything. And I walked out and my interpreter goes, I'm sorry, who were you yesterday and who are you today? Because they're two different people. I was like, well, get used to this girl. She's not going anywhere.
What did you do right at the beginning on that first day versus that second day? Like, you talk about establishing rapport and getting control of the conversation.
Mhm.
How was it different from the time you failed?
I will tell you what it was. And the funny thing is, I didn't know what it was back then, right? It worked, but I couldn't define it, couldn't describe it, couldn't tell you how I did it. Now I can. It was a mindset shift, all about the mindset shift. The first day I showed up with fear, doubt, insecurities, worry. The second day I showed up with total control, absolute confidence, and power. And that doesn't mean that I was aggressive or mean. Absolutely not, because all my interrogation training to this day is rapport based and non accusatory. That is the only way to interview and interrogate. And I've been training law enforcement and special forces and military for a couple decades. But I showed up with the power, the confidence that I was going to ask good questions, that I was going to control the conversation, that I was going to build such amazing rapport that this detainee was going to trust me. And all it was thinking different thoughts. Thoughts drive our behavior in every facet of life. If you can pinpoint one thing that makes you decide something, fear something, it comes back to the thought you're thinking about it. It's just black and white. Nobody can give you an emotion. Nobody can make you mad, sappy, had, angry, embarrassed. Only you do. Because your thoughts about someone, an act, event, a situation creates the emotion in your head. And this is all, science backed and evidence based. We have so much power to control how we feel, what we do, what we say, what we think, how we think, our decision. We have so much power, but we don't tap into it enough. And I think those two instances when I failed at Brown and failed in my first interrogation, I tapped into it. And I was like, because I felt so strongly that it was never going to happen again, then all of a sudden a whole shift happened because my thoughts changed. My thoughts in the day one interrogation were, oh God, what if I can't build rapport? How are they going to treat me? What if they attack me? What's going to happen? What if I can't? Blah, 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 blah. Doubt, 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 insecurity, doubt. The second day was, I'm going to ask these questions and I will get every answer I want. I'm going to build such rapport that they're going to trust me. It was total different way of how I spoke to myself. And because those thoughts changed, my behavior changed.
And I gotta imagine that it had an effect outside of that room where you're doing interrogations as well.
I will tell you, I do a lot of leadership training too. And I always tell people, you know, to be a great leader is you have to be confident in everything that you do, say your behaviors, you're being watched every second of every day. You have to be authentic, genuine. You have to say, if you screw up, I screwed up. I'll own it. If you don't know something, I don't know because no human knows everything. That's that level of confidence. I used it as a team lead in Gitmo. I used it with a leader when I came back from Gitmo in the military. I used it as an entrepreneur. I have used it working on multiple contracts, leading projects, whatever. Because when you show up with confidence and empathy and respect, right? Everything that we should bring to the table, people want to be around you. They want to listen to you because you make them feel good. If you're around somebody that's insecure, that has fear, has doubt, is worried, when you're around that type of person, you start to feel what they feel. Now you feel insecure. Now you have doubts. Now you're doubting them. When you gravitate to people, ask yourself why. You can look at your friends, your colleagues, anybody in your personal and professional life. Look at the people that you feel good around. Why do you feel good around them? And if you ask yourself that, I bet you will find a common denominator that they are very honest. They're very confident in what they say and how they come across. They're genuine. They're, empathetic, compassionate. But that confidence is what really attracts us to people.
You talked about the mirror neurons. So, like, when you show up that way, does that help the person? Like, when you're interrogating the prisoner, does that help them show up confidently as well?
So what it does is it helps them relax. It helps them trust me because if they feel that I know what I'm doing, if they feel that I'm being super genuine in the rapport tactics or what I'm doing, then they trust me with what's going to happen. They trust me with their future. They trust me to give me information. And that's that basis. It helps build trust with people because of that level of confidence. People like that and it makes them feel good.
So, if I'm showing up and I'm like in a new environment, worried about how it's going to go, insecure, the worry, the doubt, all that's like bouncing around in my head, right?
Yeah.
Going into it, what would be your advice?
You need to interrogate yourself. You need to ask yourself, why are you so worried? What is causing you this fear? Why don't you feel comfortable? And if you can't come up with a really solid answer, then toss those thoughts in the garbage can. You shouldn't be thinking them. There's no evidence for them. Before I gave my TED talk, I go on stage all the time. I love it. I love being in front of people. I thrive. It's my energy place. I just love it. So I go to give my TED talk and I'm the first presenter after lunch. I had a whole hour to work up my nerves. A minute before I get called out, I have a full blown panic attack. And I'm like breathing heavy. I'm sweating. I'm shaking. I'm like, I'm about to go out, give a TED talk. It's a one and done because immediately it gets recorded on YouTube. You can't fix it, can't change it. It's like off, right? So my thoughts were, Lena, this is one and done. If you screw up, it's on YouTube forever. Lena, right? All these people are watching you. And so these thoughts started hyping me up, increasing my cortisol, and they just made me so anxious and stressed out. So I thought, I cannot walk out on stage like this. This will not happen. So change it right now. And I started thinking these thoughts instead. I'm going to go out there and I love being on stage. So I'm going to be amazing. These people paid $100 per ticket to come hear all of us. I better give them something worth $100. And you're an expert in your field and you have stuff that can help people, especially protect them from people who are trying to hurt them. Go give it to them. What are you scared of? And by the time I walked out, it was all gone. All the cortisol was gone. So when you have that stress and anxiety, especially from your thoughts, you're going to release that stress hormone, cortisol. And I always tell people, do not let the cortisol train leave the station because once it's pumped through, you're going to feel all those physiological responses like I did, the sweating, the shaking, the panicky, rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing, all that stuff. If
Yes.
you catch it in time, that stuff won't happen. And so you can temper it down, Take a power pose, take up space, breathe deeply, lift your chin. And as soon as your body actually takes up more space, that convinces your mind to think that you have no fear. You're confident.
Yeah. You can handle this moment.
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing, don't get it confused with saying, I know everything,
Yeah.
because that's a lie. Nobody knows everything. There's so much I don't know, and I'll be the first to tell you. Only tell yourself that no matter what happens, I'm showing up as my best self, and nothing is going to scare me. And if I don't know something, I don't know it. That's fine. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we get in trouble, right? Like, when we like, that overconfidence, like, the overselling, and then we don't believe, like, what we're telling ourselves.
Yes, exactly. You don't want to go down that lane. I tell people, you can lie to other people, but you cannot lie to yourself. So be genuine, be honest with yourself, and accept the fact that you're human. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to be perfect. And that is absolutely okay. I preach it because, again, there's multiple times in my life where I've had to pull myself out of the vortex of cortisol, of that stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really impressive to me is the time frame with which you've done it. So, like, what you were just sharing with the TED Talk, like, a minute to go is
Yeah.
is not is not much time, right?
No.
Like, I've given talks before, and, like, so 1 minute's like, "Whoa, you're on," and like you said, it's a one and done. Like, you're really good at making a quick shift.
Yeah. And I guess staying committed to it. I don't wait. There's no wavering. I'm going to do it, and there's no negotiating it.
Kobe Bryant used to talk about that. I remember he'd say, like, "Okay, if I say I'm gonna get up at 3 AM or 4 AM and work out, that's what I'm gonna do, not like I'm gonna hit the snooze and, 'Oh, I don't have to,' or I'll make it 5 AM, 6 AM." He's like, "Once I make that decision, boom, I'm in the game."
Exactly. Yep. And you know what helps in that? Because if you are a person who's trying to wake up earlier to incorporate exercise, then you would not say, I'm going to try to wake up earlier. You say, I will wake up earlier. No negotiating it. It's not up for negotiation. It's black and white. I will wake up earlier tomorrow. Just how you talk to yourself will dictate your behaviors and actions.
And do you think we can continue, like, a lifelong pursuit, we can talk to ourselves better throughout our lives? Like, it's something that we can work on and improve over time and over reps?
Yeah, because it's almost like a muscle, right? You have to exercise that muscle and changing your thinking patterns. And some of those patterns are ingrained in your brain and have created neural pathways from your childhood. So that's pretty tough. But you can change your brain's chemistry. I mean, a whole bunch of scientists have proven this. Neurologists have proven it. We can change these ingrained negative patterns that we have created from, whatever, trauma, rough upbringing, being bullied at school, or whatever have you. You can change them. It takes work. So you have to dedicate yourself to committing to the work. But oh, it's very easy to do.
We call it work for a reason, right?
Bingo.
I was coaching tennis one time, and this former number 1 player in the world was next to me coaching this young girl, and she wasn't moving her feet, as much as he wanted prior to the tournament, professional tournament, and he says, it's not foot fun, it's not foot joy, it's foot work." Sometimes we make the mistake of saying or combining, like, simple and easy, right?
Yes.
Saying that those mean the same thing, and that work is easy, but it's like, no, it's doable.
Yes.
It's gonna take a consistent effort,
Yes. I agree.
a diligent effort, which it sounds like you have consistently done time and time again.
And it's that consistency has to show up even when you get hit back down again. It wasn't just an uphill climb. No, I got beat down again and I had to get back on the ladder. And I got slammed down again and get back on the ladder. So and I think that has a lot to do with our resiliency. And as humans, we're so resilient. Oh my gosh. So be consistent, but be resilient. If you get smacked down, it's okay. You pull yourself back up again, get back on track because you're going to have to do this throughout multiple times in your life.
What do you think, like, are there carryover lessons, like transferable lessons from the interrogation that apply towards relationships? What lessons can, like, the average person going about their day, going about their life, like, draw from you and your experience and your expertise that can benefit them?
So, one is you attract more bees with honey than vinegar. So, there may be times where someone's behavior does trigger you and you're angry or you want to get defensive or you want to fight back. Ask yourself, is it really the best behavior to have? And is it going to be productive to achieving what you want? And who knows what that could be, a promotion, getting the truth, de escalating conflict. The answer is probably going to be no. So, it's always being self aware to say, make sure I am not accusatory in my tone and how I sound. Make sure I am not blaming. I am not pointing fingers. Always make the choice to be non accusatory and rapport based. And when you do, you can de escalate somebody else's aggression so easy because they don't have anything to feed off. So if you are aggressive or you feel that way or you are defensive, the other person can feed right off of that. And now they are more aggressive, they are more defensive. Mirror neurons again. So if you really want to control an environment where you want to get the truth or you want this conversation to be a conversation, not conflict, then it all starts with you and it starts with your behavior and how you look and how you sound. Tap into your empathy instead of, and I love this habit from Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is like the most brilliant book out there. He says you want to listen to understand, not listen to reply.
Yeah.
So, in any type of conversation, whether it's at work or at home, you want to listen to the other person to understand their point of view, where they're coming from. That's tapping into your empathy. Then you can communicate for them to understand you. When we're always thinking, I'm going to listen to understand first, then our emotions go away. We have our active listening skills turned on. We are able to hear or receive what people are saying objectively and not get triggered or defensive. And with that, we're keeping our emotions down. We're staying in our rational brain, our prefrontal cortex. We're not getting emotional, tipping to your limbic brain, because once you're in that limbic brain, it is impossible to have a rational conversation. And you have to be self aware of your behavior, how you sound and how you look, everything that you do. Because you may be coming across sarcastically, condescending, maybe a little too passive aggressive, maybe a little patronizing. You don't know. You think you're just talking. But other people are like, oh no, like you really sounded condescending when you said that. You sounded really rude. So receive that feedback, tap into how do I sound right now? And yeah, and then say, could it have been taken as a little condescending? Yeah. So maybe I'm going to change what I say and how I say it.
You talked about, like, developing rapport and being a chameleon.
Yes,
Are you also trying to, like, get a sense of how you're being received?
absolutely. Absolutely. So, especially in interrogation, and again, this flows right over into business. You want to create a safe environment. What I mean by safe environment is that you want to create an environment where people trust you, confidence, right? They like you, they feel safe around you, so they can tell you anything and they have no fears of punishment, repercussion, embarrassment, whatever, right? You have made them feel so comfortable that they trust you and they have no fear telling you the truth. When I am with people, I get a sense of your behavior, your personality, and in your overall demeanor. And I try to mirror it just ever so slightly where you perceive me as being like you. And if you perceive me as being like you and similar to you, then that trust comes because you like yourself. And if you perceive me to be like you, well, of course, you're going to like me too. And so I love to use the easiest way to do an example is extrovert, introvert. Obviously, I'm a hardcore extrovert, right? If you see me, my hands are going. I just energy. I could talk forever. I could dominate a conversation. I'm in your face. Like that's just me. But
You
I have talked to, interviewed, even job related stuff. I've interviewed a lot of introverts. And sometimes I just have to tone down my behavior and my demeanor because I'm too much for them. I'm overwhelming. I'm exhausting. Um, I'm talking too fast and not clearly. So I have to calm that down, mirror their personality trait a little more. And now I've created an environment where they feel more comfortable around me.
How are you noticing that in the conversation in the moment so that you're able to, like, turn the temperature down
Mhm.
and find the right balance for that?
Yeah. When I find the balance, they open up. And I'm talking like metaphorically and physically, literally their body expands. And instead of like compressing and covering up and crossing arms and tucking in and becoming smaller, right? That's what we do when we feel any fear, we become smaller. They expand, they open up. They don't feel they have to protect themselves from me. So I see it physically in body language, number one. They have more eye contact with you. They're more relaxed. Their whole demeanor now is relaxed and calm. Then they start opening up about what they're talking about. That's the shift. Right then and there, I know I've created an environment where now they don't fear me. They do trust me. I can tell immediately within like, I don't know, 5 seconds. Hey, it's a little harder,
Yeah,
because you're only looking from chest up in. So the body has 3 power zones. This is approved by Amy Cuddy, where she says, "Hey, stand like Superman and Wonder Woman, and you'll release cortisol." When we close up, we tend to cover 3 areas of the body called power zones. They're called this because they protect vital organs, and if we were to be hit in any of these areas, we could die, right? The first one's the neck dimple, second's the belly button, and third is what I'll call the naughty bits.
yeah.
So when people have any fear, they tend to cover those parts up. So if I come in and you're talking to me and you're covering those parts, then you have fear. I don't know what it is yet. I'm not a mind reader, but I do know that you don't feel comfortable around me yet because you're protecting these places. When I start to get you to open up and you're not protecting them anymore, then that tells me, okay, now you feel safe.
I don't know if I should trust her, like, I'm guarded.
Mhm.
Okay, is this safe? Alright, I'm starting to feel a little better here. What are you doing to develop that sense?
So I do 2 things, verbally and non-verbally. Non-verbally is I open my body language. If I want you to open up, I have to be open, right? I have to have the chin lift because people, they don't have to cover their neck. So I have to be open. I have to have good eye contact. I say appropriate eye contact because it's a cultural thing. I have to not cover up anything. Smiles are infectious and they don't cost anything. The easiest thing to do, just smile and be relaxed, right? The other thing with the verbal is I have to make sure that I'm going to ask you questions about you. My first thing is to show interest in you. And this is a question you can ask anyone. It's brilliant and it's so easy. Chad, how do you feel right now? I'm not going to guess,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not going to tell you. I want you to tell me. And when you come back and tell me, now I have something to work with.
Right, right. And how do you know if they're lying to you?
When people lie, the number one indicator of deception is when somebody is behaviorally incongruent. So that means their body language is not matching their spoken language. Their statement analysis, there's words to listen for, pronouns is a deep, deep subject. But for the kind of overarching great indicator is when their body language doesn't match their spoken language. And you can see it really easily in 3 things. The first is a shoulder shrug. So if you're talking to someone and I say, well, how do you feel? And you say, oh, I feel I'm really relaxed. But you shrug your shoulders, right? That it's off. It's not in sync. If
Yeah,
you say, I don't really know, I'm a little nervous. That makes sense because your words are saying I don't know, but your shoulders are saying I don't know. But if you tell me something definitive, oh, I'm fine. Everything's good. But you shrug your shoulders, I don't believe it because you're doubting the words that you're saying. The second is with yes and no. Yes is a nod, no is a shake, right? So if I look at you and you ask me a yes no question, do you feel okay, Lena? And I say, yes. but I shake my head no, that doesn't match, right?
Yeah.
In my line of work, if I ask a criminal, well, did you kill X? And they say, oh, I would never do that. And they nod yes, we got a problem. And plus, I would never is not no, it's an embellishment. And then finally, the third way to look for behavioral incongruence is with facial expressions of emotion. And you smile, that's congruent. But if you tell me that you agree or like something and you do this and you squish up your nose, well,
Yeah.
that's disgust. So that's not congruent. You're actually showing me disgust. And why would you do that if you didn't feel it? And the
Yeah.
reason why it's so accurate is because that truthful thought is always in your head. You cannot get rid of the truth. People cannot believe their lies. It's humanly impossible. I know people like to think so, but it's humanly impossible. So the truth is always right here in the prefrontal cortex. And when you're asked a question, the truth pops up like really, really fast. And you have to push it aside and then conjure up the lie or think of something different. But you've already reacted non-verbally to the truth. And that's why it's so accurate.
You. What did you do then, or what were you like trained to do to to unravel that, still keep the rapport train going in the right direction?
I tell people you're never going to get the truth unless you have trust first. That's step number one. If you have the trust, right, then when they don't tell you the truth, you should be able to bring it out and call it out, and they should not feel defensive or angry at you or anything. It should be okay to talk about, right? Safe subject. Do you call it out immediately? Maybe. Do you wait? Maybe, right? So again, you have to make this decision on how to handle it inside every particular conversation because you're dealing with a unique individual. So there's sometimes I've called it right out. There's sometimes I've waited. There's other times where I do this one brilliant trait. It's an NLP embedded command and it's assigning a positive trait. So if we've had great rapport, but I know you're lying about something, maybe you're lying out of embarrassment. You don't want to tell me what really happened because you're really embarrassed. And you want to talk to me about it. So at some point, you have to call the elephant out in the room because you can't have people lying to you. So what I do is I will, soften it up. I use my empathy and I'll say, Chad, so we've been talking now for a few minutes and I've listened to all your stories. A few things I have questions on. And I know because of how much we've gotten to know each other, if there's one thing I can say about you, you're an honest person. And then I stop and I don't talk because I let that sink into your head. As it sinks in, you think, yeah, I am honest. Right. And the whole ruse behind it, it's not even a ruse because it works. The whole method behind it is I tell you you're honest, you become honest. And people are like, "Ugh, that doesn't work. Oh, it does. And I've been using it for 23 years. If I tell you you're honest, you're like, ugh, whatever. It's not going to strike a chord with you, then I'll figure out something else. And maybe you need to be told that you have integrity. That's your word. Honesty doesn't mean much to you, but integrity, oh, that's what you strive for. I have a scale behind me, right? I'm all about fairness and justice. So when you tell me, Lena, if there's one thing I know about you, you are driven by fairness and justice. That will resonate with me. And now I want to become fair and just. So it's one trait. And when you deliver it, it's a persuasion tactic, persuading that person to say, no, you're right. I haven't said X because, or, well, I wasn't 100% honest. What you never, ever can say is this. You never tell people, well, I believe, Chad, that you withheld some information and you didn't tell me everything, and there's more to the story. Because all that's going to do is reinforce the negative and make you become defensive. So instead, I say, Chad, I feel there's a lot more in your mind you want to share. So instead of saying you haven't shared, I tell you you want to share.
Did you did you have to learn when to pause and how to pause instead of just keep talking? Like
Yes.
"Oh, I know you're a person of integrity," and then you keep going versus
One of my biggest pet peeves. I'm like, you said the perfect thing and it would have worked, but you kept talking. And as an extrovert, we extroverts, whoo, that's a hard thing for us to do. You have to have patience. And you have to be able to know when to talk and when to listen. Critical, like the most paramount skill you can have. Stepping all over myself, run on questions, the terrible questioning tactics, not getting the answers I want, not having my methods or my techniques work. There's your feedback. It's failure.
Yeah. And would you record these and go back and watch and analyze and go, "Oh," and also receive, like, when you were first starting out, like, receive coaching and go, "Oh, this is where you screwed up," and
Unfortunately, I didn't have that back in the day. I was trained and that was it. Run off and be an interrogator. We also didn't have the ability to record and go back and analyze. So this is back in 2002, just wasn't around. Nowadays, there's people who do this, and I recommend that they go look back at the videos to watch themselves, right? You're going to analyze yourself and the other person to pick up on any type of indicator you may have missed. It's a great way to ensure that someone is not getting away with lying to you. But I never had that option. It was, you're in the booth, the interrogation, it's over, done, on to the next.
did you not, like, in essence, fool yourself? Because there's a saying, like, "What we feel isn't always real,"
Mhm. Mhm.
where you felt like, "Oh, I really did a great job," or "I really did a poor job," or something. How did you make sure your assessment and, like, the learning process of your craft continued in the right direction?
If I didn't get the results that I had stated in before this interview, then they weren't working. My techniques were not working. Something was wrong. If I got the results and I met my objectives, then we're good to go. And so I always tell people if you're interviewing, even for new hiring, you're interviewing, maybe there's an employee relation, maybe there's a complaint, you're working in HR, ER, if you do not have an objective for this conversation and you do not know or can state clearly at the end of this interview, I will have X, Y, and Z, then that interview is going to go all over the board and you won't be able to drive it to where you need it to go. So you won't even be able to measure results because you don't know what they are. You have to know what the results are for every conversation that you have. At the end of this conversation, I'll want, I'll learn, I'll know. Mhm. You have to have a plan. I always tell people, if you don't know where you're going, you're never gonna get there.
Yeah.
So in a conversation, you have to know where you're going
Yeah.
and how to drive the conversation to that point.
And you talked about it starts with trust, right?
Mhm.
What if there isn't trust to start with?
Well, that was my whole world. Nobody trusted me. They hated me just simply because I was an American.
Yeah.
You know, some people will not trust you because of your title, your role in the company, your job. They don't know you, right? But they don't trust you because of what you stand for what you say, for what you do. So you have to get that person to get to know you, Chad, not Chad, the CEO, not Lena, the interrogator. You're going to get to know Lena. And it's becoming human, which again goes back to respect, empathy, compassion, non accusatory. Don't be an interrogator. When I train law enforcement, I tell them, do not be a cop in an interview, right?
Yeah.
You need to be a human. And now I can resonate and relate to you, Chad, because now I see you as a human, just like me. You're not the big scary CEO or whatever.
Yeah. Or the cop or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you find yourself starting to maybe become defensive or emotionally get heated and you're not necessarily listening to understand, you're listening to respond, pivot.
I love the word pivot. Listen, you have to do this for yourself. You have to be aware that you're in a place that's not productive and uncomfortable and ask yourself, do I really want to feel angry right now? Do I really want to have this ridiculous conversation? Or can I do it better? Maybe I need a break. Maybe I just need to walk away for 15 minutes and then come back. Ask yourself, well, I made this assumption, but did I really have all the information to draw that conclusion? I didn't. I was missing a huge chunk of it. So why then I'm making this assumption or having an expectation without the proper information? And so now you can kind of talk yourself off the ledge, as we call it, and get yourself back into your prefrontal cortex instead of your limbic brain. And now you're thinking about this conversation rationally. And that's how you go about it.
Have really helped you not just in your work, but in your life?
Oh, yes, it absolutely helps. It helps in every facet from dealing with a rude client that I had to deal with a few years ago. Going back 15 years ago, totally disrespectful boss. I had to stand up for myself because he lied about me and no one had my back. From to buying a car, right? And having the salesperson try to tell me that it's a pretty color and there's room for your purse. I'm like, no, back up. That's not what I'm interested in. You're going to sell me this car like you're talking to a man. Right. And so I think it's helped in so many aspects. It's helped me build effective teams. It's helped me coach people and mentor them. So, yeah, really huge.
In part,
Couple of things. Number one, be your best cheerleader. I've talked about that. Uh, And that is just making sure you don't put yourself down. There's a ton of people out there that are ready to do it at any moment. Why would you do this to yourself? Right. So that's number one. Be your biggest fan and your biggest cheerleader. Number two is trust your gut. If your gut is telling you, I don't trust this person, but I don't know why. I don't believe what this person said, and I don't know why. Trust it because I'll tell you why it's happening. Your gut and brain are connected, and your stomach lining has brain cells in it. So, that gut brain connection comes from everything from digestion and how you feel and all this stuff. But when it comes to detecting deception in people and believing them and not getting manipulated or lied to or cheated on, then your gut has picked up on a behavior that your brain can't make sense of yet. You haven't taken a body language class. You just don't know the information, but your gut knows it. Your brain can't make sense of it, but your gut has picked up on an anomaly and has said, hey, warning, please heed the warning because you are seeing or hearing something that is probably that person not being honest with you. So be your biggest cheerleader, trust your gut. And the final one, be self-aware. You have to be self-aware of your thoughts, your emotions, whether you are in your limbic brain, how to control a conversation down to the words that you choose to use. Everything should, when you're in a conversation, should be deliberate, should be exactly what you want to say and how you say it. And at the end, you can think, yeah, that came out exactly how I wanted it to. And I sounded the way I wanted it to. So I would say those three things could really make a difference in relationships, both personal and professional. And be trustworthy. Let me end with that. Be trustworthy. If you want people to trust you, you have to be trustworthy.
and where can people find you and your work, your books? You said you've written 4 books, 5 books already?
4 books. I just submitted a proposal for the 5th. Yeah. So, oh gosh, lenasisco.com is real easy to remember. And my company, the Congruency Group, has its own website, which you can get access through lenasisco.com. And I'm all over LinkedIn. So you can always find me on LinkedIn, which has my website links right there too.
And any I know you any closing thoughts you wanna leave the audience?
If I can help you in any way, don't fear reaching out. I think
Lena,
sometimes people will say, "Oh, I know you're busy," or no. If you ask me a question, no fear.
love it. Thank you so much. This was incredibly powerful for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you liked it, please share with a friend on social media. That goes a long way to promoting this podcast so I can continue to interview and share these conversations with fascinating people. You can follow me on social media, Chad Stoloff, and visit my website, chadstoloff.wordpress.com, for more information. I'd love it if you would leave a review to support the podcast. Thanks so much. Until next time.